Welcome to Veteran State of Mind. I am your host, Geraint Jones. Happy to be in your ears. Today, we have another fantastic guest. She has been much requested and for good reason. She's absolutely awesome. I'm glad I can call her a friend. She's one of those people who, she's so unassuming. She calls herself distinctly average. I disagree strongly. She's got a will of iron. She does a lot of stuff for other people, and I really appreciate her having her as a friend and having her on the podcast. And speaking of podcasts, today wouldn't be happening without the Royal British Legion. You know who they are. You know why and who they are, because they have been getting the business done with veterans and their families for 100 years. They are, of course, the Royal British Legion. I am so thankful for them for making this podcast happen. You know why? Because I get messages every now and again. I get a message from one of the listeners saying that this podcast has helped them through a dark time. And that would not have happened without the Royal British Legion putting this podcast on the air. So thank you so much, Royal British Legion. There's all kinds of ways that they can be as assistance to you, or maybe just to someone you know. What I recommend, guys, is go into their website, rbl.org.uk, and I'll link it up in the show notes so you can just click it and it'll take you straight through. See what the British Legion have going on, because it might be in a few years' time you find yourself, maybe you're just trying to start a business up and you might be struggling to get money from the banks, because we don't like the banks. They're nasty and they steal all kinds of monies off you. So you might be in that position, and you might not need it today, but you might need it tomorrow. Or you might be in a conversation with another veteran or a veteran family and find out that they need what the RBL offers. So check them out at rbl.org.uk and also at Royal British Legion on social media. And if you want to support the podcast directly, head over to vsomstore.com. vsomstore.com, again linked up in the show notes. We have your Ali merch needs on there. We got t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, all them kind of things for the old and bold and the young up and comers. It's all on there, vsomstore.com. Right, today's guest, she's an absolute legend. As I've already said, she served in the American Navy, in the US Navy, on the medical side of things. She deployed to Afghanistan. She put in a lot of years in the military. She has an incredible amount of experience, and she's been doing a lot of good since then as well, since leaving the military. So please give a warm welcome to my mate, Nikki Selby. Nikki, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Been meaning to do this for a while, but then when I was in the States, I kept on getting hungover and I'm forgetting some advice. I get so little done when I'm hungover. I haven't had a drink for 3 months now. The podcast's been going really well. I'm looking forward to ruining that soon when I get back on the alcohol. How's things going out there in Southern California?
It's going well, although we are, I guess, shutting down again. They're shutting all the bars down again. So
have you been naughty?
It's just been interesting. And
Governor Newsom's telling you to stay in the house, is he?
And wear masks everywhere.
What's your medical opinion on the masks then? Because you are a medical person of science.
So my opinion goes against a lot of others, I guess. But the thing is that if you're going to say that everybody has to wear a mask, you should have a standard. And when there's no standard, you have people wearing, a little piece of cloth over their face or paper masks or whatever they can get their hands on to satisfy that visual requirement. And it really doesn't do anything. And if you look around and watch people wearing their masks, they're constantly touching their face. They're pulling it down to talk. I highly doubt people are taking their cloth masks and throwing them in the washer when they get home. What they usually do is either take it off, put it in their car, they put it on their kitchen counter. So what do I think? I think it's useless.
So me wearing a pair of used underpants on my face isn't not doing anything.
I mean, it might be doing something for you, but not in the sense of protecting you from a virus.
Right. In that case, I'm going to keep on doing it just to be on the safe side. No, I agree. Like, I don't have my thing isn't per se about but it's the implementation of it, isn't it? It's it's the same with saying like people handling weapons and people handling weapons are two very different things depending on if you've had training or not. And I just think
Right.
of these medical procedures. You just think like, there was a really good. Do you ever watch Scrubs, the comedy show?
I did a long time ago.
So they had like a sequence of scenes on there, which was kind of like a clever one, where they had a guy who had he had like a cold, and they showed like a color on his hand, and then he touched other things, and he touched other things, and he went into a patient's room who just recovered from like cancer, I think, and he touched her, hugged her to say goodbye, and that passed on to her, and then that finished her off, killed her. Yeah, not finished her off in that way for dirty listeners listening. I thought, and I was like, wow, that was a really good kind of explanation about how things do get passed on. But like you said, you see people touching themselves, well, not touching themselves, but touching their faces in public. Hey, it's been a long lockdown. People want to touch themselves in public. I'm not going to hold it against them. Tell us a bit about your background then in the military, who you served with, and then we'll go a bit into why you served.
Okay. So I joined the Navy right out of high school, and I joined as a corpsman. And along the way, I applied for search and rescue corpsman, and this was back in the late 90s. Got accepted. At the time, I was the only female in the community. My personality tends to be, just go for it and then figure it out when you get there. And I definitely found how challenging it was, and probably why there weren't many females in that community. But, and it's very physically demanding, as it should be. I wasn't the PT stud or the fitness guru or anything at the time, and had my ass handed to me a few times, but put my head down and worked and got through it and qualified, and it was one of the best jobs I ever had. We did mountain rescue out in China Lake, which is near Barstow. But it was great. It was very challenging and awesome. Loved it. From there, went on to instruct at Rescue Swimmer School down in San Diego, which was another challenging assignment. Did that for about 4 years, and then got picked up for a commissioning program to finish my nursing degree and get commissioned as a nurse in the Navy. So did that and spent the next 14 years as a nurse. I was with the Marines. I went to Afghanistan. I went to Haiti when that crisis happened. I was on a ship, went back to the Middle East, and then finished off my career with the Marines and developing training for in-route care, which is medevacs, essentially.
All right, we got a lot to talk about. You might have to stay on the line longer than we planned. First of all, search and rescue corpsman sounds really, really cool. So, what talk us through like what the kind of jobs that you're dealing with in that?
So the search and so it's helicopter. So I was an air crewman, and we were there to do point of injury rescue. So where I was at China Lake, we supported the base that was there, which is the weapons test squadron, and anything or any mishaps that happened with them in the aircraft. And then we also supported the surrounding community because we were up there near the mountains, and people hiking, getting lost, or having accidents or whatever. We could go out and rescue those guys, and then drop them off at the hospital, or sometimes it was body recovery. So yeah. But no, it was it was very demanding physically. I was rappel qualified, which I was terrified of heights. And I actually didn't know that I was going to have to get rappel qualified, because when I applied for it, I was told that the medic stays up in the helicopter. And this is usually over water. And then the rescue swimmer, which is usually just a crewman, goes down, gets the patient, brings them back up to you, and then you do the follow-on care in the helicopter. But it's different when you're over mountains. The corpsman or the medic goes down for that patient. And so when I checked into my command, the first thing my senior corpsman said was, okay, we're sending you down to rappel school at Pendleton. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, well, that's part of the qualification. I was like, oh, no, I don't do that. And
you do know.
And it was, okay, well, you don't have to, and you can leave the job, or you're going to go and, continue on with your training. So I did, went down to Pendleton. The first time you go down a tower, and I think I shook that tower with my legs. And the guy below me was getting pissed at me because I was at the top and I didn't want to go down. And he starts yelling at me. He's like, you need to come down. So finally did that. It was great. Then we went in the helicopter, and, it was just one of those things. I just needed to do it and get it out of my system. And then I actually loved it after that.
What kind of aircraft were you using?
I was in Hueys, the UH-1 November,
Ooh,
which is the
they're sexy.
old Hueys that actually you can hear them, right? Because it was only the 2 rotor blades. Nowadays, the Hueys have 4, and they don't sound like they used to sound, like what you think of in like the Vietnam areas. But yes, I was in the older Hueys.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're the sexiest helicopter that ever did live. So we've got that's a pretty Billy badass job, search and rescue corpsman. What were you like as a kid growing up? Because you mentioned that you were, your legs are kind of shaking going out the rappelling tower, but there must have been something an element about you that was seeking some kind of adventure. What was your childhood like?
I was never very adventurous. It took me until I was 16 to even get on a roller coaster, and my cousin made me go on Space Mountain in Disneyland, and I was terrified. So that's my normal personality. I was never that one to seek out adventure. I was pretty shy and reserved, and just kind of went with the flow, and just never felt the need to do crazy things. I don't know what happened to me in my adult life, but I think I'm catching up for all of that. I don't know, but yeah, I was not that super adventurous person. I was really independent though. I joined the Navy without really talking to my family about it. Just kind of came home one day and put the little piece of paper on the dining room table, and my dad was working swing shifts, so he didn't get home till 2 a.m. or something. And so he came home to that. I thought it was like, oh, here you go, Dad. I joined the Navy, by the way. So I woke up to kind of a shit show. He was just like, what are you doing?
What was the reaction to that?
He had said, when I'm 18, you're out. So I have an older brother who said the same thing to him, who my older brother joined the Navy as well. And so I kind of screwed up in high school and didn't really set myself up for college or anything like that. So I didn't really know what else to do, I guess. And I believed him when he said, when you're 18, you're done. So I went down to the recruiter and joined the Navy.
So I know you skateboard and stuff. Was that something that you did as a kid?
No.
You just picked that up now, have you?
And I don't do it very well now.
You do it better than me.
No, those little stupid pebble rocks that nobody talks about, they try to kill you. It stops your wheels. You could be going, I gain some confidence and pick up some speed, and then those stupid little pebbles will stop your wheels. And I've gone flying off that thing I don't know how many times, and I'm sure my neighbors think I'm the crazy woman.
I think you're a crazy one for being on there. Yeah, those things are nuts. There's cars. Get in a car.
They are. Yeah, it's crazy, but they're fun. So I'm trying.
I've seen too many people coming off those things, because when I stay in San Clemente, the balcony looks over a hill, and they all go down there towards the pier area, and I've seen so many people eat shit that I'm like, that just doesn't look like fun. No,
it's not, but I keep doing it. And let me throw in a plug too for Raid Skateboards, who that's where I get my skateboards from. It's a small, better known business, but yeah, they got the greatest skateboards.
Right, I'll invoice them for the plug later. No, that's cool though. But I'm really interested in knowing though, where you kind of got this this streak of doing stuff that made you uncomfortable. Is it did you feel like you had something to prove to yourself, or something you had to prove to other people? Where did this come from, this kind of thing of doing stuff that made you oh, I'm not really into this, but I'm going to do it anyway?
That's the story of my adult life. I don't know. I don't like being told no, first of all. And when I applied for the search and rescue position, my senior corpsman, who was also the career counselor, said, you can't do that. Females don't do this. And I was like, well, why don't they do that? I just, at the time, I was really fascinated with helicopters and flying. And so that was kind of my way as a corpsman to try to break into that community. And so when she said that, I was like, I don't understand why I wouldn't be able to, because it's not a combat position, it's search and rescue. And I always tell people at that moment, I could have just accepted her answer because I was junior and she was senior, and that was her job to know. But I asked her to look at the instruction and show me where it said no females allowed. And so she's like, all right. So she goes back, does that, comes back and says, well, it doesn't say you can't apply, so I guess you can apply. So again, not really thinking it through, I went ahead and applied and got accepted. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges of my life, not only physically, but also breaking into that male community that didn't want me there. I never thought about those things. I just thought, oh, this is a job, it's available, I'm going to apply, try it out, and never thought that people didn't actually want me there because I was a female.
So before we go on, I just really want to emphasize that point, because we get like a lot of people listening that are either going to join the military or are junior in the military right now. And I want to emphasize what you said there, which is basically, don't take no for an answer from someone, because most of the day they're just going off the top of their head. They're just like, oh, you can't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's fucking bullshit. Oh, you can't. Like, there's positions that you can transfer to. You can transfer to other corps. You can take courses. There's all these things open to you. But they're going to give you the answer most of the time that requires them doing the least amount of work. So do what Nikki did and be like, well, show me. Now, that you may end up with some extra guard duties because of this. I'll tell you that the show me attitude does not go down so well in the infantry. You might just get shown the fucking back of someone's hand instead. But yeah, it's a really great point though. And that goes for civilian life too. Don't expect other people to have the answers for you. Seek them out yourselves and make people show you. And you might not be everybody's best friend, but these people, you're not trying, like, these people are there. They're there trying to coast a lot of the time. So don't expect them to do the legwork for you. Do it yourself. I think that's really important to take away. So thanks for that. So yeah, what was it like then? This breaking into a male environment then. What was that like?
Well, I had I found that the guys either loved me or they hated me. There wasn't a lot of in between. And my first command, I worked with two gentlemen. One took me under his wing and we got along great. We get along great to this day. He's like a brother to me. The other one was pretty much, I don't want you in this community and I'm going to figure out how to get you out of here. And so he kind of made the training and the qualification process probably more difficult than it should have been. But again, I'm always up for a challenge. And he made my check ride really difficult, but I did it. And the other guy was like, oh, this is bullshit. And I was like, no, let me do this. Because, the thing is, and it's kind of unfortunate, but it's just human factors, is that when you're a female and you're trying to break into an all male world, you do have to be better. I mean, you have to prove yourself, and you have to prove yourself through action. And that's the difference. Is I think a lot of people want to complain and bitch and moan or whatever. And, my thing is put your head down, do the work. And yeah, you might have to prove that, you're better, or, be stronger, be more skilled. And that is, how I got accepted into that world. But I did have an incident when I first checked in. My officer in charge sat me down and said, I don't believe females should be out there. I'm not going to let you go train. So I had to fight through that initially. So it was very challenging.
But you know what? Again, what you're saying there is a great point for anyone to listen to. It's like, if you want to go into something and nobody else, and this could be color, age, gender, nationality, changing trades, it's on you to prove to the other person that you can do it. Now, would it be great to live in a perfect world? Yeah, of course it would. We don't. If you want to do, so if there's someone listening now and you want to start business, I tell you what, as a good example actually is, quite often we get people saying, oh, my parents don't believe in me doing this. My parents say, they're like, oh, well, can't you take a safe job, or can't you take a comfortable job? Oh, they don't believe in me. Well, it's because you haven't fucking proved anything to them. They still see you as someone that just shits diapers. It's like you've got to prove to people that you can do it. And like Nikki's saying, you got to do it better than people expect as well. And then once you've done that, you'll get your acceptance.
I mean, that's in that world, again, that's how you prove yourself. And like you're saying, yeah, in a perfect world, everybody would just accept you and that's it and whatever. But, you have the human factors that play into everything. And it's just, until it's more common, then, that mentality is going to be there that, you're going to have to work hard. And definitely hard work. I mean, I studied all night long because I had, the guy that didn't really want me there would embarrass me in our training meetings. And so I was like, all right, enough of this. And so instead of complaining and bitching about it, and was it unfair? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he definitely pointed me out on purpose, but I put my head to the grind and like opened the books, started studying all the things about the aircraft. And, pretty soon he's calling me out and I'm answering the questions. And I would counter him and ask him questions that he didn't know. Yeah.
Motherfucker. The thing is about the military as well is like, look, the military exists because we live in an unfair world. If we lived in a fair world, we wouldn't need the military because everyone would get along and treat each other well. So, it's an organization dedicated to the fact that the world isn't a fair place. So don't expect the military to be fair either.
Yeah.
It's just you're just setting yourself up for failure if you expect that, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, I'm a realist, and again, it's like, yeah, it'd be great if we lived in a world that was everybody got along and peace, love, and happiness, whatever, but that's not reality. And, the world isn't going to be fair to you when you're out there and doing something like search and rescue. You better be able to do that physically, mentally, everything else. You're got someone else's lives in your hands. So, it's not about you. It's about, can you do that job to that standard?
And what was it like when you went to your first kind of like, is it like, what would you call it, a team, a squadron?
So the first that first squadron was the 2 guys because I had to do my qualification process there, and it was definitely. I mean, just starting with the officer in charge of that, because we were attached to the branch medical clinic there, and he would farm us out to the squadrons, and that guy was like, I'm not going to let you go train because I don't think females should do it, blah, blah, blah. And again, this is back in the 90s. So we didn't really have the equal opportunity officers and people that you can really go to. So I had to make some phone calls to people my senior enlisted that I knew at my last command, and my master chief helped me out with that, which then kind of pissed off my officer in charge because it came down from, DC or wherever that he had to let me go train. And so then he made it more difficult by making me work in the clinic as well, stand duty as an EMT, and try to train at the same time when the other 2 guys didn't have to do any of that.
So an EMT, just for British listeners, can you explain what an EMT
emergency
is?
medicine technician. So at the time, the Navy, the corpsmen were covering the 911 calls, so to speak, on base. Nowadays, it's the federal fire guys that are on base, but at the time we did it. So we would have someone on call 24 hours a day. So on top of having the job in the clinic, I had to stand duty and still try to train, which was, a 6 month to a year process. So it was a lot more than anybody else had to do in that position. But again, it was like, all right, up for the challenge. Let's figure this out. So
Why do you think he was doing it? Why was he doing it, do you think? Like, what? Obviously, like, he had something out for you, but like, what were the reasons behind that, do you think?
Well, I mean, he's like, I don't think females should do this job.
But for what? Did they ever give any reason why?
He just, because it's physically demanding, and he just, I don't know, I guess that old school mentality of it's a man's job. So, I mean, he was point blank about it. And so then he got pissed when I made phone calls, and, which is like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm here to do this job. Like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. And so that's when he made me do all the extras.
Because I find it kind of funny, like, all right, I don't think women can do this job because they're not physically capable. It's like, well, I've just shown you I'm physically capable. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Because I can understand, say, one of the things that I've had an issue with in the British Army was when they lowered they were like, right, well, this is the standard the man needs to pass. This is the standard the woman needs to pass. And there's different standards. I'm like, well, hang on, that doesn't make sense. Right. But if everyone can pass the same standard, everyone can pass the same fucking standard.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the Navy's the same way. We have, in the general population, you have the male and female standards. For things like search and rescue or other type of special communities, there's one standard. And that's kind of been the argument lately, especially with in the news. I think there was the first female Green Beret that just qualified. Mm-hmm. People saying, oh, well, they lowered the standard for her. I don't know if that's true or not, but there still is one standard that you have to pass. And for search and rescue, I mean, it's for a purpose, right? Because it's not about you or the title. It's about, can you do the job, and can you save a 200-pound plus man, drag him along, or put him into a litter, put him in a helicopter, that type of thing. So it's physically demanding. You can't change that. So you have to pass those same standards.
Can you remember what your first call out was? Your first job as a search and rescue corpsman?
When I was up there, we didn't actually deal a lot. So we had 3 stations in that area, which was Lemoore, China Lake, and Fallon. And anytime there was a call out, everybody ran to their helicopters to try to be the first one there. So the only thing I think we did a body recovery, and then I can't remember. I think we had a down pilot.
That's pretty heavy for your first job.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of mental things that go into it, especially if you've never seen a dead body before. Yeah, it's very demanding, and I still feel to this day that the medical training is lacking in that department for us. But yeah, I didn't feel completely prepared to do that job.
Right.
So, but yeah, we didn't have a lot. We trained every day, but didn't have a lot at the time.
And where did you? Where was the next step for that, and what was the decision behind it?
So the next thing, I went to rescue swimmer school down in San Diego. Every ship in the Navy has to have 2 qualified rescue swimmers, and the curriculum is a lot like, I guess, to put it into perspective, if you've ever seen the movie The Guardian.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Costner, yo!
So, similar curriculum. Again, very physically demanding. Again, I was the only female. Just getting my ass handed to me the whole time. Lots of swimming, lots of running, lots of calisthenics, and that was pretty much because I had to qualify, so I went through the school myself, and before I became an instructor, and yeah, that was very demanding. I don't think I could walk for every day. It was just dragging myself into my house, trying to get into my bathtub and get my muscles to repair themselves somehow. But it was good. I mean, again, love the challenge. So, and this was all, again, I wasn't a big confident child, or, throughout my childhood, I wasn't very confident in myself and my abilities. So doing all of these things, it was just every day, it was making me stronger and more confident, and showing myself that, yeah, I can do this, and I tell everybody, if I can do it, I swear anybody else can do it, because I am very average as physically, intelligence wise, I'm pretty average. I don't consider myself above average in any of those areas. So if I can figure it out and get through it, anybody can do it.
What was your motivation not to quit when you were doing all this, when you were waddling into your house and collapsing in the bathtub? What was it in your head that was telling you not to quit?
Trust me, every morning I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Pretty much my whole career was like that. What are you doing? I don't know. I guess it's, that the ego component of, I'm not going to show them that they got to me. I don't know. And also I was, becoming an instructor at that school. So I didn't want to let down my other instructors. I didn't want to, I don't know. I guess I couldn't live with that. Oh, she failed, she can't be an instructor or whatever. So
it's like a shame, like a good old bit of shame motivation.
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, you do have that peer pressure a little bit, and I was the only female. There's all these guys, and you're trying to blaze a trail, so you don't want to fail. I mean, it kind of, in a way, I guess it would prove to the guys, like, see, she couldn't do it. So I didn't want to be that person.
So you were very aware of that then? You were very aware that you were kind of carrying other people's, you're carrying other people's kind of like hopes on your shoulders as well as your own.
Yeah, I think if you're doing anything like that, if you're the only female or you're the only whatever in whatever community you're going into, you do carry that a little bit, and you do have a spotlight on you, and there's a little bit of pressure involved with that. But if you choose to do that, you're taking that with you. I mean, that's just a given. Because again, it's that human factors that go with it.
And then every time you're getting one of these, one of these courses, one of these challenges, is it just like, are you getting a kind of like an unquenchable thirst then for more of these experiences?
So I'm really starting to think that, because I seem to be constantly looking for that next challenge. Yeah, I think once you achieve something and something that you really didn't think was possible, you you grow, you become more confident, and you have a little bit of that. I mean, I don't know if it's an addiction, but it kind of feels that way, I guess, where you're looking for that next adrenaline push or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I think there is something to that when you accomplish things, like, okay, what's next?
Yeah, I mean that what's next thing is I don't know if you ever heard the guy called Tim Grover. He was like Kobe and Michael Jordan, Kobe, D Wade's trainer, and his kind of thing is just basically like people who are top of their field, which you are, is that's like you get there but by having the mentality of okay, what next? Like every time you have a success, you see someone like Tom Brady. When they win the Super Bowl, he's already thinking about the next one, already talking about the next one. So it's that kind of thing, right?
I think so. And, I am getting to that age where I'm like, why can't I just relax? Like, this is just getting ridiculous because, I retired last year and I still feel like I just have so much on my plate and I do it to myself. Absolutely. And then every day I'm like, why can't I like stop doing this? So that's the conversation I'm having with myself daily.
You said this to me 5 months ago when I saw you.
Yeah.
This is exactly what you said to me 5 months ago. It's like, you're like, why can't I stop picking up things? And here we are. Actually, it's like, yeah, 6 months, 6 months later.
Yeah.
I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean, though. I know exactly what you mean in the same way. It's like, you'll finish stuff for the day, and you like put it down, and you're like, you put the pen down, and you're like, right, what have I got? So I took a day off the other day, and about 10 minutes into my day off, I was like, fuck this, I'm working. Because what do you do on a day off? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's and someone asked me the other day, when was your last vacation? I was like, probably a decade ago. I don't know. It's like when you're trying to relax, your mind, or my mind anyway, is just often the 50 different things that I'm involved in, and I just can't. It's really hard to shut off my brain.
Well, I want to come back into some of those other things that you're involved in later, but like let's talk about your time in the Marines then, and with your time out in Afghanistan.
So I ended up deploying, with the Navy. So just a little background if people don't know, the Marine Corps does not have their own medical. So the Navy is their medical. And so we call it, blue side Navy is kind of like that traditional Navy, the ships, hospital, and then green side is with the Marine Corps. And so when you're assigned to the Marines, you put on their MARPATs, you deploy with them, you train with them. And so I ended up getting deployed to Afghanistan with we call it medical battalion, which is supporting the Marine Corps. And we were part of a damage control resuscitation surgery unit that the purpose of us is to try to set up near where heavy operations might be, or where they expect a lot of casualties. And we can pop up a OR resuscitation tent within an hour. That's the concept of it. And so we're pretty mobile. We take in the casualties. We're called a roll 2 in the different roles of care within the theater. Roll 1 being that point of injury, and then roll 2 is us, where we can do that damage control surgery or the resuscitation. And the point is that we are trying to stop the bleeding, because most of these guys in trauma, what do they die of? They die of hemorrhaging. So if they can't stop it through tourniquets and whatever else they have, we can go in surgically, try to find out, where the internal bleeding is or whatever, clean it up. We're not trying to fix the person there. We're just trying to stabilize them. And then we put them on a helicopter, and then we transfer them to the roll 3, which are the bigger hospitals within theater. So Kandahar, Bastion at the time is where I was operating out of, which was Helmand province. So I was part of this damage control surgical team. We moved around a little bit through Helmand, and then I also did the helicopter transfer from our roll 2 to the roll 3. And the reason is because at the time, the dust off medics, who was the main component of medevacs within theater at that time, the paramedics didn't have the critical care training that is required to transfer these patients. Because what happens is, once we do surgery on them, they come out on a ventilator. They're, getting blood, they're getting drips, we're doing sedation, paralytics, that type of thing. And at the time, they do now have the training, but at the time, the paramedics didn't have that skill set. So what would happen is, oh, hey, nurse, get on the back of the helicopter and transfer this patient. But it doesn't quite work that way. I mean, you really need a lot of training to do stuff like that. And at the time, the military just, they looked at you as nurse, you should be able to do everything. So I was doing that primarily after our surgeries. And luckily I had the background in helicopters, so I understood that part, but I was very new in critical care medicine. So it was terrifying. I mean, I'd be the only person still resuscitating this patient on the back of a helicopter, and I didn't have the gear because I wasn't part of the air crew. So I didn't have a headset. I didn't have any way to communicate with the team. So yeah, it was very another challenge.
Yeah.
That when they asked, like, oh, who wants to fly? I was like, oh, sure, I'll do it. And I remember the first flight was, again, what the hell am I doing here? How did I get to this point in my life? So, but, accomplishing it, and my patients were all alive when I delivered them, it's another component of building that confidence and making the person or becoming the person I am today.
So what kind of injuries were you seeing?
So mostly a lot of amputations, a lot of injuries throughout the core. So a lot of these guys are really weighted down with their gear, and they would step on an IED, and instead of being, blown to one side or the other, maybe just affecting one side of the body, it would just go right through the core. So a lot of times both legs would be gone or mangled, and then it would go up through their genital area and through their abdomen, thorax, that type of thing. So pretty devastating injuries. And there was one point when I was at Bastion helping out in the OR. I was there when 3-5 took over singing. I was like, I remember telling myself, if one more of these kids, I call them kids, 20-year-olds, whatever, come in without their fucking dick, I'm going to lose my shit. Because it was just pretty devastating.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, that's the first thing you check as a dude when you get blown up.
Oh, yeah. Well, there were two guys that came in at one point, and the other guy was conscious. The second one was not. And the other guy was like, "Is his dick okay? Is his dick there?" He was concerned for his friend's dick. So.
Well, that's a sign of a true friend when you're checking on each other's dinglings.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Well, I just want to make sure I got this straight about how this works. Then, right? So you'd have you'd set up at somewhere like Fob Edinburgh. So not quite in a town or something. So just out on one of these fobs outside of a town, and then you'd have a helicopter pick them up, drop them off to you. You guys would do the work, and then the helicopter would then take them to the hospital at Bastion.
Right.
Okay, that's interesting. So obviously, for British listeners listening and guys that have been deployed to Helmand, we had the MERT, which would come in and you go on the MERT, and then the MERT would just go straight to Bastion. But what you're kind of saying is that there wasn't that capability on these. What was it? Were these Pedros that you were dealing with?
So Dustoff was operating the most in that area. We did have Pedro, and we had MERT, but like you're saying, MERT would usually just pick them up from point of injury and take them straight to the Roll 3. But that's because MERT had you guys had a lot of capability. You had a physician, you had, I think, anesthesia. You had your own security, so you could do that point of injury. You had your security in case it was hot. And then once they got into the helicopter with your guys, I mean, they were immediately starting the resuscitation process in the helicopter. So the capability that MERT had, we had on the ground, but our Dustoff and our Pedro didn't have that critical care capability in flight. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what's Dustoff? Is Dustoff literally just throw him in the back of the chopper?
Dustoff so now the paramedics are getting critical care trained, but it's a paramedic. Whereas MERT, you have physicians, you have actual physicians, you have paramedics, you have anesthesia, you have people who can start the resuscitation process with blood. So at the time, like Dustoff wasn't carrying blood, they weren't carrying any of that stuff. So yeah, essentially it was, tourniquets, their airway, really good at handling airway, managing the airway, but they didn't have a whole lot else to resuscitate. So they would bring them to us if we were closer than the Rule 3. And we would start that resuscitation process because we had the blood or we had surgeons or whatever else.
So is it fair to say then that the command, if you will, had missed there was a bit of a kind of like a blind spot in the casualty evacuation process?
When it comes to Navy and Marine Corps, absolutely. And that's, if you ever look at my posts on Instagram, I talk a lot about that capability gap. The problem with us is that we don't have dedicated medevac services. So dust off for the Army are dedicated medevac. The Navy, the Marine Corps, we use a lift of opportunity. So although we'll have a medical provider of some sort, we don't have vehicles that are dedicated to us. So we'll have to use, beg, borrow, steal, whatever is available for us. One of the gaps was, they came up with that concept of the Rule 2 and the damage control surgery teams, to be in these areas that were close by the fighting, which is great. And it saved a lot of lives, but they did forget that component of flying them back to the higher level of care, and that patient is now critical, and the paramedics at the time didn't have that training. So that's why one of the nurses that was with the ground team would have to get on the helicopter and fly them back, which then degrades that ground team's capability, because now you've taken that critical care nurse. And, I would fly to wherever I was going, and because I wasn't part of the dust off crew, they would leave me half the time. So you're at your own devices to figure out how to get back to your unit, which
Pizza Hut.
So then your unit is degraded because now you're missing for however long. Sometimes I know in Iraq they were missing for days at a time because that was a larger area of operation. Oh yeah, they would dust off would drop them off. You go in to give their report to the trauma team, and then they fly away. The first time I did it, I even asked the guy, "Can you please wait for me and take me back to my unit?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, sure." I go in with the patient, go to give the report, and then you hear the helicopter fly away, and the surgeon was like, "Was that your ride?" I was like, "Yeah, it was."
And presumably, you might have like a few nurses left at the same time, right? Because if you've got like multiple casualties coming in at different times, you could lose a few nurses.
You could, but we would only travel, like the surgical team would only have one nurse, and then you had the resuscitation team that had maybe one or two other nurses, but that was it. We were a very small unit. That was, again, our purpose there was just to resuscitate, with blood or surgery or whatever we needed to do to stabilize the patient. So we were a small mobile team that was traveling around that area.
So then you were just trying to like convince somebody to fly you to this patrol base and drop you back off?
Oh yeah. So like that time and I have all my gear with me. So I'm dragging all my gear to figure out where the aircraft are. And I would get there and, are any aircraft at the time, that one I was at Combat Outpost Payne, which is down near Pakistan. And that was as small as a combat outpost. So not a lot was going in and out of there. And at this point, I want to say it was like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. And so I asked the guy, is anything going down there? And he's like, no, just sit out there and wait. And it's winter, and winter in Afghanistan is pretty cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really prepare for that. So I'm sitting there in just my uniform, no jacket, no anything else. I'm shaking. I think finally at like 2 a.m, you're like, oh, we got a supply aircraft going down there. So hopped on that thing and made it back down. But yeah, I mean, you have no way to like communicate with your unit. You don't have cell phones or anything like that. So it was, well, at the time I didn't. I don't know if they do now, but well, hopefully they realize I'm not dead somewhere. Yeah.
So you saw this as something that needed to be fixed then?
Yes. A lot of things needed to be fixed. So I made it my mission when I came back that the training is lacking, because I feel like a lot of times I got lucky. I did not have the training, the critical care training that I needed. I, thankfully was familiar with helicopters, but I was thinking about a lot of these other nurses who never had that helicopter training, and they're getting thrown on the back of these birds. I mean, that's terrifying. And so, I was like, this isn't right. We should not be doing this to our people, our nurses and our corpsmen, medics. just throwing them into the mix and just, figure it out. That's a disservice to them. It's a disservice to the patient, obviously. And I feel a lot of nurses came back and were like, F this, I'm done, I'm not doing this again, not because of the environment they were in, but because they were not prepared adequately.
And how did you go about that?
So my last command, I was stationed with the Marines again at the medical battalion, and I had a great CO who understood the capability gap of the en route care process. And so he told me, do what you got to do, not qualify these people because I didn't have a standard, I didn't have my own curriculum, but, train these guys up, do what you need to do to prepare them for deployments. And so I came up with a training program, which some of the higher ups weren't crazy about because they thought I was just creating a curriculum and qualifying people. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that, because we did have a school in Alabama, it's called Joint and Route Care Course, for that official qualification piece. But the problem is it's a joint school. So that means Army, Air Force, Navy, we're all going there. They had limited seats, cost money to send people over there that the local command had to absorb. And so it was just a challenge to get everyone that you needed qualified through that school. So we still had deployments and we still had this mission. So I started training people the way I thought that, they needed to be trained, just through my experiences and research and knowing what they were going to get into when they got over there. So I did get some phone calls, kind of like, what the F are you doing? There's a school. And so I had to explain that, these higher ups should have known this, but they didn't, and explain to them that, it is impossible to get everybody that we need qualified through that school. So my choices are send them unprepared or train them to the best of my ability. And they agreed with me that they still needed some kind of training, so they let me continue.
What was that like, that experience of knowing that something could be the life or death of someone and having people tell you that basically like, oh, this doesn't fit in with our fucking curricula? Do you know what I mean? That kind of like red tape attitude, and you're dealing with people's lives. How do you keep a lid on not punching someone in the fucking face?
So, I mean, it's difficult. But I found that if you go into attack mode, people shut down and they don't listen to you anymore. So it doesn't, it's not a conversation anymore. So I've always said, if you're going to challenge the system, you're going to challenge these higher ups, have a sound argument. And my argument in that particular instance was, okay, would you like me to send these people unprepared? And that's always, nobody's going to say, yes, send them unprepared, right? And when I'm telling them, and I knew like there's no argument against that, right? Yeah. So my argument was, they couldn't challenge that. And I had done everything that I was supposed to do up to that point, which was try to get them in school and, have them apply to it, the whole bit. And I had proof to show that we couldn't get, at the time I needed 30 qualified in route care providers. There was no way I was going to get that, with that, if I sent them to that school, because the school only ran classes, I think it was 4 times a year. Again, you're competing with other services. There weren't enough seats for us. I did my part in attempting to do that. And I did send the people that we could send. But, the other part of it, again, is we still have these deployments. So the 2 choices were turn down the deployments, which nobody's going to do, or send them unprepared. And she was just like, well, okay, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so to kind of like distill that into points, it's like, so basically, do your homework, know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Offer solutions about how to get by it, and then put the question to them so that they're the ones that then have to make that kind of thing of like, unprepared or not.
Absolutely.
That's a great way of doing it. Like you said, if you go into attack mode, people shut down. I always think of veganism and stuff as a great example of this. I always used to have my back up against it because people always used to go into attack mode about it. And then when my friend Paul just started being like, well, do you want kids in Africa to starve? I'd be like, oh, well, no, I don't want that. And he'd be like, well, this is why this relates to that. And then you're like, oh, But then I still eat meat, so I guess I'm just a twat. But that's really a great way of thinking about those is giving that. But also like it's like earlier, you know, you were saying about if you want people to give you like if you want people to take you seriously about something, you got to do better than everyone else.
Right.
And it's the same kind of thing as if you want to change the system. It's like you not only need to do something better than the system, you need to do the work yourself, and then let the other person then kind of like make that decision. Exactly. And do the proof of concept. Why did you decide to leave the military? Why did you leave the military? When did you leave the military?
So I did 23 and a half years.
Wow.
And at the time, I was up for another promotion. Where I was in my career, my CO, the system kind of wanted me to go towards that DC direction. And
what's a DC direction? Sorry,
Washington DC. So like, you know, doing like a staff job or working with policy and stuff, which is, you know, probably where I should have went, but I just couldn't do it. I'm not a politician. I don't like those people, and going there as at the time 04, you know, you're kind of the scum on the bottom of their shoe, and. I just felt also if I stayed in at that time, I was going to be there till 30. And it was that decision of, okay, I'm still young enough to do the fun things that I want to do. If I stay another 6 years, you know, who knows where I'll be or my body will be at that time and what I'll be able to do physically. So, because a lot of the things I'm interested are physical. So, I just made the decision to get out at that point and start doing the things that I've always wanted to do and couldn't while you're in the military, such as volunteering for overseas organizations and things like that. So, yeah, it was that crossroads that, you know, I either keep going till the end or get out now and try to do some other things while I'm still.
And what were some of those other things?
So one of the things that I did was the Global Surgical Medical Support Group, which I had been talking to, and you know, the president of that organization had wanted me to do some deployments to. They go to northern Iraq, Kurdistan area. I couldn't do that obviously when I was active duty because they kind of frown upon you going by yourself to Iraq without military support. So, yeah, that was one of the first things I did is take off with them and do an assignment with them up in Kurdistan, which is we trained the Peshmerga military and the Kurds that support their military in advanced life support. So it was very rewarding and eye-opening to interact with those people.
Was that 2019?
That was, yeah, October 2019.
So I'm just trying to think time-wise. Was that just before the US pullout then?
Yes.
So how did that make you feel?
When they pulled out, I think that we should probably have a presence in those areas. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that, but you know, I don't know. It's hard to say, but yeah, I think we should still have some sort of presence, and the people love us. They really do. Like the general, you can't watch the news and believe everything you hear and see, right? I know my interactions over there. They love us. They love training with us. They respect us, and they want us around. I'm speaking, you know, with the Kurds especially. So, and I know when we pulled out in those areas, they felt pretty betrayed. So,
yeah, fair point. pretty justified in feeling that way, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it fucking sucked. I never worked with the Kurds, but I've only ever heard good things about them. And like, they bore so much of basically the brunt of the fight against ISIS. And then it's just like, cheers, bye. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's fucking, it's heartbreaking.
Exactly. And they support us. We were supporting them, and they truly believe like we'll be there. We'll have their back. And when you do that,
yeah, it's pretty clear at this point that we've just acted in our own interests in that part of the world.
Yeah.
Because whenever it's been like, it's like, right, they're like, oh, right, we helped you out now. Now you're going to stick around. Yeah. It's like, yeah, nah, I think we'll be off now.
Right.
We found the better. It's like we made a deal with someone else. We found the better deal. As nations, we are fucking twats, really. The way we behave. It's no wonder most of the world hates us.
Yeah.
It's like, because I was talking, with, Hamodi, we were talking earlier, Hamodi, the terrorist whisperer, he was saying the same thing about Iraq, as like most Iraqi people. I'm sure you get the same. I get people messaging me on Instagram saying, come back to Iraq. I'm like, dude, it's not up to me, but I fucking would.
Yeah. I mean, they, again, as, the people the Kurds were amazing, and they're so welcoming, and they're people that just want to live their lives in peace. And like you say, they're caught surrounded by all these different areas that are not very peaceful. And but yeah, they do, they love us. They were the most attentive students that I've ever taught, which was really difficult because there was the language barrier, but they were all about it. I mean, they were there every morning. They were sitting at their desk waiting for us to talk, asking questions. I mean, it was great. And, to this day, I still have friends from over there. So we hope to return. We were supposed to go back this year, but, with everything going on, we weren't able to go back.
Well, yeah, because we all know the coronavirus is far more deadly than ISIS. Like, what? We're like, hang on, right, we've got to pause the war on terror while we deal with ISIS. Everyone put your face masks on, and we'll deal with the terrorists that crucify people later.
Yeah. See, this is one of my issues. People who have never left this country don't understand really true oppression. And, they think that because America's in crisis, or, Europe's in crisis, everything else stops. Our enemies are just going to let's just go on pause till they get their shit together, and it's like, yeah. No, I mean, if you were fighting somebody, are you going to wait till they're completely healthy and good? Or are you going to kick them while they're down? Probably kick them while they're down. So, yeah, the world doesn't stop for us.
Not just the world, but medical conditions too. It's like, oh, I got corona's things. It's like, yeah, but dude, the fact that you're still a fat fuck is still way more dangerous for you than corona. Like, it's like, no, obesity's not killing anyone at the moment. It's just corona. It's like, it doesn't work like that, fatty.
Well, if you look at some of the hospital records, it's corona that's killing everyone. So
yeah, coronavirus. Let's talk about fitness. Yeah, because you're into your fitness. You do some mad yoga shit, is the technical term. What's your kind of like ethos towards fitness? What do you look for in fitness? What do you get out of it? How do you practice it?
So again, because the way my brain works is it challenging? Okay, then I want to do it. So I just that's the first thing I look for. Is it challenging? I'm an all or nothing person. So if it's not something I have to have a goal to aim for. So if it's not something that interests me or challenging, then I'm going to be sitting on my couch eating ice cream. So I look for things that
the goal is to eat all the ice cream.
Yeah, well, I can do that very easily. No, but the goal is finding something that I like to wake up for every morning, or, look forward to doing. And so yoga has always been challenging to me, because I trend towards the power yoga, which is like a lot of arm balances and handstands and that type of thing. That pretty difficult. I was doing CrossFit for a long time, which every day there to me is a challenge. Every workout's a challenge. Yeah, if I'm not on my hands and knees crawling out of the place, then I feel like I was a waste of time. And I don't want it to be hours long. Like, I just want to get it in, do it, get it over with, crawl out of there, be in pain. For me, my goals nowadays are just to be healthy, and aesthetics are good, but the main point is to keep moving, keep your body moving. I think that goes with the longevity of people. My parents are 78 years old. They move all the time. They're walking, or they're playing tennis. They're constantly doing stuff, and they are the most energetic people I've ever met in my life. So, there's something to that, don't stay stationary.
It's one of the things I worry about with lockdown is the people who are not like my grandma, she's like, what's she now, 95 or something? Now she's been locked down for months. It's going to be very hard for her to start moving again, because she was like quite good on her feet.
Yeah.
But she'd go out every day and stuff. Because like she's, in the 90s, it's hard for people to get moving again if you're in your 20s and you've stopped for a few months. Like, once you're out of childhood and you get out of the habit, it's fucking hard, you know. So, but like you said, it doesn't need to be crawling out on your hands and knees, but just doing something to move every day, I think, is so important for your mental health as well as your physical health.
It absolutely is. And like, I kind of fell into a little funk this year with the whole quarantine, like everybody else. And I found myself not working out, and I was staying up all night long because my brain wouldn't turn off, because part of that working out for me was, you know, to exhaust myself to the point when bedtime came, I would go to sleep, and that wasn't happening. So I was up all night, and then I was sleeping in till 10, 11, 12 o'clock in the day. And then my day was gone. And it just became this, like, what am I doing here? What is my purpose in life? And so I just started a couple months ago. I have a spin place near me, and they finally opened up, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start waking up early and going to this class, which I'm not a morning workout person, but just that simple change in my routine has really gotten me back on track, you know, with my fitness and my mental health. I'm starting to come out of that cloud that I was in, that funk I was in, and just feeling good about myself again. So yeah, I mean, I trust me, I had to force myself to get out. I have to force myself every day to get out of bed and go, but I do. I feel amazing afterwards. And it's just a little bit, you know, just doing that. Just get up, put one foot in front of the other, and just do it. Show up.
Well, it's good to get that win under your belt, isn't it, at the beginning of the day?
Yeah, it is, because it just sets off my day. I started it early. I come home. I still have my whole day ahead of me to get some work done or whatever I need to do. And by night, I'm tired because I got up early to work out, and it's put me back on track in that routine that I think my body and my mind craves. So yeah.
I was going to say, do you do meditation practice or anything like that?
I try. Meditation is really hard.
Oh yeah, it's fucking tough.
It really is. It really requires a lot of concentration, and, you know, having a quiet area. It's practice. And again, my mind is that type of mind that's just going. It's hard for me to read a book these days, because I'll be reading a page and then find myself thinking about something else and have no idea what I just read. So,
unless it's Brothers in Arms by Geraint Jones, in which case you can't tear your eyes away from the page.
Yes,
obviously.
Yeah. So meditation requires that stillness and quietness, and being able to shut everything off and be in the moment.
But that's kind of what you're doing with CrossFit, though.
Well, CrossFit is like that, but you're active, you're moving. Where meditation, you know, it's still. Like, I have the hardest time sitting still for anything. So
it's a skill. I think I don't really meditate that much anymore now, but I try and find other ways of doing it, like basically going for a walk and not like basically going for a walk and concentrating on the walk, if you know what I mean. So like concentrating on looking at the vegetation and that kind of thing, focusing in on something rather than trying to have like an empty mind. Because maybe I could reach that point one day, maybe we all could, but we need to start with something that's just like, and maybe starting by thinking about 5 things instead of 50 is a good start, right? You know, it's just we're not overnight going to go from being like monkey mind, with our mind going all over the place in different directions, to finding absolute stillness in our mind. It's just not going to happen. You know, we have to do these things, you know, kind of one at a time. And I think people can get very frustrated by trying to go to, you know, because it involves closing your eyes. I think people think that they should be able to do it perfectly the first time, and then they don't. They get frustrated with it.
Yeah, and there are some apps that are pretty good to help you with that, and like kind of talk to you and talk you through it, which is not a bad place to start if you're looking into that meditation. There's one, I think it's called Calm, that I've had on my phone forever, and I just, you know, don't use it. But but
that's like me with language apps.
Yeah, I've tried it a couple of times, and it does. Like, if you know, you play it, and then there's a calming voice that's telling you to relax and whatever, and it works pretty well. So I
was thinking about like doing an app like that that's then like trying to like basically it would be good to get like a meditation app, and then but have it as like one of those hypnotherapy ones. And then as people are under, you get them to enter their credit card details and stuff. You could do that, I reckon. There might be a little bit of money in that. If anyone has a cousin in Nigeria who wants to make some money, that's the way to do it. I just want to talk a bit before we wrap.
Speaking of Nigeria, who's making money off me.
I just want
to plug in for the fake profiles.
Yeah. Well, have you had it? Well, actually, you know what? That kind of ties in what we were going to say, because I wanted to talk to you about your social media, because you've got big social media following. Do you get people using your stuff for catfishing?
Oh my gosh. It's every day. I mean, there are probably thousands of fake profiles, apparently. I'm on every dating site. I'm not really, but I have profiles on every dating site. I have so many men message me thinking they've been in a relationship with me for months, sending money. One guy sent tens of thousands of dollars. I'm like, God, someone's making a lot of money off of me. So, oh yeah.
But you know what's annoying? When they find out, it's because I've had the same. When they find out the real you, they don't offer you any money.
I know.
I'm like, hang on. So let's get this straight. The catfish gets 10 grand off my images. Yeah. What about me?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some guy in Nigeria who's just making out. So, yeah.
What's that like when you find that out? Did it make you laugh? Or because it's kind of sad as well, isn't it, really?
Well, I mean, I really feel bad. And the target audience seems to be like the older generation who aren't as tech savvy, probably. And, there's these older men that are probably very lonely or whatever, and they genuinely think that they're having this relationship, and it's sad. I mean, they're really let down when they realize I'm not talking to you. So,
yeah.
But there was a New York Times reporter that did a documentary on Netflix about this, and this lady fell into this and thought she was helping some military kid overseas, and showed up at the airport, had a sign ready and like all this stuff, and of course the guy didn't show up. Yeah, and what's interesting is some of the security guys or the information booth people at the airports were like, this happens a lot. Like people show up with these signs and they're waiting for these guys to come home. They paid for their plane ticket and nobody shows up, and it is sad. And they interviewed these guys and they're like, yeah, you watch them just crying and walk away just defeated. And the one lady that they had on the documentary ended up spending, I guess, her and her husband's life savings on this.
She had a husband too? Oh, well, she got what she deserved then. Dirty skank.
Well, no, it wasn't like that, because she was this older lady, and I think she was just really lonely. Like her husband was abusive. And she found, solace in talking to this young military kid, and it didn't sound like it was a romantic thing. It was just more of a almost like a motherly son type of thing. And then she, he's saying like, oh, I'm stuck overseas, and so she buys him the plane ticket. She's been sending him money. He doesn't show up, obviously, and the husband finds out, ends up killing her, kills himself.
Whoa!
I mean,
I take it back. Yeah. I'm so sorry I said dirty skank. She didn't deserve that.
Yeah. No. It was just really sad. And like I said, they prey on these older people who are lonely and, don't have that companionship or that conversation, because after time you just stop talking. So, it just sounded more like it was like a motherly son relationship. And, and what was really interesting is she did find out eventually that it wasn't him that she was talking to, that it was somebody from Nigeria or wherever. And she kept talking to him and then it became this, I guess she fell into a pattern and, enjoyed talking to these people. Kept sending him money. And so the husband obviously freaked out, and that was it. So yeah, it ends in tragedy a lot. It's really sad. But,
yeah.
And it's sad when Instagram, these platforms don't do anything about it. No. So I got shut down once because I was reporting all these fake profiles. Well, apparently they were reporting me back, and Instagram shut me down. Which made a lot of sense. So
yeah, I've been on both ends of it, and it's it's fucking sad and stuff. But like, I just don't see any way of stopping it. How there's any way to stop it happening? Unfortunately, like we said earlier, it'd be great if the world was like a nice place. But there's plenty of fucking assholes out there who are going to take advantage of people, unfortunately. Scams have always been around. They always will be around. And we just happen to be if you've got a decent social media following, you're probably getting scammed. Like people are probably using your images to scam if you've got a decent social media profile. Or even if you haven't, even if you're just fucking smoking hot, you're probably getting your things used.
Yeah, but I feel like you're right. You're not going to be able to shut down all of these profiles because there's probably millions of them out there. But you know, they should be, I think, educating more. So like, you know, they have banners all the time about, I see COVID banners and I see all this other educational banners. Like they should have banners for that, because it's pretty obvious once you know like what the fake profiles look like and you know, the patterns that they have and they take on. So they could easily be throwing these educational things out and like, this is what to look for, you know, so and so. I still find it's amazing that people don't do things like, I don't know, video chat before you send tens of thousands of dollars to somebody.
But what they do is they're sneaky on this because they'll be like, oh, I can't because I'm in Iraq or whatever. Yeah. They pretend to be deployed and they pretend that they can't. They're fucking clever motherfuckers. But they're sneaky shitbags, and there's a special place in hell for them. If, however, you are a catfish making thousands of dollars and you'd like to sponsor the podcast, please get in touch, and you can have as many pictures to use as you like. Mate, have you got anything else to tell our great listeners before we wrap this up? Tell them a bit about Hunter 7 Foundation, actually. I wanted to give them a shout out.
So Hunter 7 Foundation is a foundation that is doing research on the effects of the burn pits that we were all exposed to overseas. And why should we all be concerned if you're a veteran, if you were overseas, and, you know, that lovely smell and black smoke that you woke up to every morning probably affected you in some way, somehow. And unfortunately, you know, it doesn't happen right away. Like trauma gets a lot of attention because when trauma happens, it's very in your face. You see it. But the things like you're exposed to overseas with the burn pits and the toxins can do damage on your body that show up later. So, you know, cancers, and that's where, you know, the foundation started, because Hunter 7 is actually the call sign of a master sergeant who was over there and ended up coming back with a really rare cancer. And they think, you know, suspect that it's probably what he was exposed to. And we're seeing more and more of these people coming back with just really odd cancers that they shouldn't be getting at, you know, the ages that they're getting them. So Chelsea, who is the nurse and the main researcher and the founder of the foundation, she's started asking questions, started, you know, doing some research on it. And now she's been talking to senators and congressmen about getting some bills passed, and it's really raising the awareness and advocating for yourself. So when you go to a doctor and you have some weird symptoms, a lot of times, you know, especially if you're younger, they want to just send you home and like, oh, you're fine or whatever, when it could be something that's a lot more serious. So just advocating for yourself and educating the doctors on what you've been exposed to and where, you know, for instance, colon cancers, the screening doesn't even start till you're 50. That's the nationwide standard for US. But we're seeing people with colon cancers in their 30s and their 20s, and it's odd. And the thing about colon cancer is it's highly curable if you find it early, if you get a colonoscopy and you find it, you know, in the polyp phase or whatever. But because they're not able to get the screening, the colon cancer manifests, it becomes stage 3, stage 4, and at that point it's very deadly. So, you know, we're seeing people dying from this when they easily could have been screened for it, you know, and possibly taken care of early on and not have to deal with everything that they go through, chemo and then death and whatever else. So
yeah, because it seems like this is a similar kind of situations, the Agent Orange exposure and Gulf War syndrome, you know, these fucking the shit that you get exposed to, because, you know, you just breathe it in. This is what fucking pisses me off about governments. Oh, wear your dirty underpants on your face to go to the grocery store. Now stand next to this fucking 15 years ago, stand next to this pit and burn plastic with fucking petrol and stir it with a stick. Fucking bastards. I'm just thinking, because I've always thought like the dust as well, like the amount of like, we literally just breathed in handfuls of dust continuously when you're in the back of the vehicles. That can't have done us any good.
No, not at all. And that's where like we're seeing people like they're coming back with lung cancer. I mean, Ron Scher, who just passed away a few months ago.
That was so sad.
Medal of Honor recipient, lung cancer. He didn't smoke. I mean, it's just, you know, unbelievable. So yeah, it's just raising that awareness first of all. But if you have symptoms or general, like, again, when you go to doctors and you're at a certain age group and you have these general symptoms, they kind of want to just send you home and not look into it. So it's you taking it upon yourself and saying, no, I want to, like, this is not right. I'm not feeling right. Look into it further, get your diagnostic tests, that type of thing. So.
Right, I'm issuing a general order to all listeners now. If you go to the doctors, you're not feeling well, do not take no for a fucking answer on that. Get your fucking, insist on your checks, especially if you're in the UK and you've been paying in the NHS. Tell me what your fucking checks.
Yeah.
Because I know that we've, like, the same as obviously American troops, where you've been exposed to all kinds of fucking shit when you've been on tour. So put your foot down. Remember, half of the doctors, as guest Charlie Bunting told us, half of the doctors finished in the bottom half of their class, right? Yeah. So don't be putting... It's again, it comes down to, like, what we were saying at the beginning of the podcast. Just don't take no for an answer on some things. Like, you got to take... It's your life. Take responsibility for it. And that means sometimes having uncomfortable conversations. And you know what? Maybe the doctor gives you a fucking shitty look, but better to have that than end up with fucking stage 4 cancer. So fuck them. Get what you deserve. Get what's owed to you.
Right. I don't know how it is over there, but, if you have a doctor who's not listening to you, find another one. There's going to be somebody that will listen to you, but just don't back down. This is your health. This is your life, and
I mean, if you're tired of living, fuck it. Go. don't go. Don't fucking, don't even waste your time going down there for the checkup. Nikki, thanks so much for coming on. Do you have any words of wisdom to leave the noble listeners with?
Well, I mean, I guess just what we said, don't take no for an answer, advocate for yourself. When it comes to things and people saying no to you, just always get it in writing, look up the instructions, just know what you're talking about, and action over talking.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Nikki, thank you so much for coming along. I really enjoyed that talk. I definitely want to get Nikki on again soon because we had time constraints and there's just so much more to talk about with her. Please check out Nikki. Again, I'll tag her up in the show notes. Check out Hunter 7 Foundation for all the information on there about burn pits and so on and so forth. Thank you again to the Royal British Legion for making today's episode possible. And thank you also to our other sponsor, Geraint Jones. He's a legend of a bloke. You can check out his books on Amazon. If you want signed copies of anything that I've written, then get in touch with me. Slide into my DMs at GRJ Books. Everything tagged up in the show notes. Let's support capitalism. Fuck communism. Guys, catch you next time. Love you. Bye.
Yeah. Listen. Shout out Teaser. You told me not to worry, and you wouldn't break my heart. You told me you were sorry, yeah, my whole world fell apart. You said it's not my fault, and yeah, I've never done you wrong. I'm grinding to a halt, now I can see you're moving on. I promised I'd get better, and I told you things would change. You keep me to the gutter, yeah, I'll never be the same. I've gotta let you go, now live your life and spread your wings. And yeah, you put on quite a show, and pulled the puppet strings. And are you sure that you don't want me? Remember all the pain, or maybe you should thank me. It's your loss and my gain. I'm leaving now forever, I won't hang my head in shame. But yeah, you've taken me for granted, and you should feel ashamed. You sold a dream to all of us, a dream that we'd all die for, a reason for us all to live and something we could fight for. I might just help a man up to his feet or hold a newborn, but no matter what I do, my hands remembering my rifle, yeah.
Life's hard, I know that, still wouldn't change shit. I wouldn't go back, yeah, I wouldn't go back. Feelings I hold back, memories fade, yeah, they go fast, yeah, they go fast. Good times they come and go, survive the highs and lows. Just take it step by step, I guess, yeah, I suppose. Good times they come and go, survive the highs and lows. Just take it step by step, I guess, yeah.